Hello everybody, my name is Anton. Welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 New Order as the United States of America. It is currently the 1968 presidential election season between, between Philip A. Hart and Robert F. Kennedy. Right now, the polls are saying that, RFK would just outright win right now. Without even much campaigning. Like, most states are very firmly, they love RFK. But, we'll see. Things could theoretically shift, in the next few months. Theoretically. I don't know if they will or not. But, aside from that, I think everything is going pretty well. We are at 45% economic progress right now, and 37% for military strength, in order to kind of clean up West Africa and make them more aligned with our interests, which seems like it's going pretty well. For the African mandates, 2 of them have now expired. We're really just waiting for the OFN, Congo, which, I mean, with you, might be the final focus, and then the OFN mandates will just be over, and we would have successfully transitioned Africa into a handful of democratic states, which I think seems good for us. And again, for you, oh, I guess this is what we're missing. There we go. You can turn this off now. We don't have to worry about this. Don't worry about you. What decisions do we have right now? Because leadership between everybody is still pretty low because we can't take too many of these decisions. We need to keep inflation in check. Inflation's at 9.44%. Holy. Oh my god. Macros. 9.44. And we're still doing the anti-inflation measures. Up to 3% total reduction. Reducing, is at 100% effectiveness, reducing it by 2.16. Holy. Inflation's going... Okay, maybe we need to spend less money. Maybe we want to do some austerity measures. Let's cut civilian and some military austerity for now. Deficit right now is then at negative 3.217, which is good, right? That means we're making money. Total spending 82. Revenue is... No, never mind. I'm reading it wrong. We're still spending an extra 13.9 billion, which is a lot. I'm not denying that. We need to, like, make more money. War taxes are inactive, but I mean, we never actually have been at war, so can't really do anything regarding that. Like, I do know that inflation rates were a lot higher in the 1960s and 1970s, even into the 1980s, than they are today. Even with, you know, modern inflation rates, which are pretty high, compared to the norm of the last, like, 10 years. You know, back in, like, the 70s, didn't they have certain years that were, like, 15% interest? Crazy. What do we want to do? Sit with Chavez. You know what? Let's sit with Chavez. Sure, we'll get some more support for the progressives. The Dixiecrats will trust us less. What are they currently at? Are they still at danger to the right? Yes. We're at 57 political power. I mean, if we do this and then have, like, a chat with Goldwater, maybe that would work out for us. Greatly anger the more hawkish members of the NPP. Okay, so actually neither of these are good for us right now. Because I do not want to be seen as more liberal. I want to do something that is not going to make the right wing too mad at us. You know, let's do the bitterest of the bitter. It doesn't explicitly say that it's going to cause everyone to hate me. So I will, I'll take that. And I have heard, people have been telling me that there is going to be a new update to the new order on the 9th of August, which is in 3 days' time. As the time of recording this, I don't know what time it'll be when this video goes live. But trust me, I have plans for that. I'll be able to backdate the mod. So don't worry about this series getting canceled or anything too crazy like that. And of course, I mean, I've heard that they're adding in a Mexico tree. So we will definitely... start that campaign as soon as we possibly can. It just depends on which of the other series finishes first. Call to Krieg. Red Flood would be my guess for what's going to end first, but we'll see. And either way, Mexico will be the next series after all this. A classroom in Fort Smith, AK, 12:51 p.m. As she hushed the class to silence, A.G. Grant, Miss Grant to her students, thank you very much, forced herself to suppress her growing smile. Managing a classroom of raunchious 7-year-olds wasn't too different from corralling her younger brothers. As it turned out, it had been a perfect training for her career as an elementary school teacher. Pencil scratched as her class worked through the math problems. Grateful for a few moments of peace and quiet she could get, Angie leaned back in her chair, idly grading homework while her mind wandered to the pathways of memory. Slowly, she found herself considering how quickly life had changed for her. It had been unthinkable for a black woman to be teaching in an integrated school a few years ago. Then all of a sudden, President Kennedy had opened the floodgates, breaking the claws of segregation that had held Arkansas in their vice-like grip. Looking around the room, she saw black and white students sitting together as though the barriers that had separated them for decades had never existed at all. Angie had never considered herself political until 1964, when her family began speaking about Kennedy as though he was some kind of messiah. She was dubious, but had voted for him anyway, hoping against hope that he would prove worthy of their trust. All things considered, she was proud she had voted for him. The wounds of 400 years wouldn't be mended in an instant, but she didn't fear for the new generation like she used to. It was the little things, like how her white students shared their lunch with their new black friends, and held hands as they crossed the road without much of a flinch. After centuries of oppression, Angie felt that President Kennedy had finally set America on a path to reconciliation. Children enter this world untainted by the prejudice of their parents. Excellent. Well, we're glad to see that. But again, we still do need to ease Southern fears. Because again, I think this is the highest level we can get for Kennedy without risking the without risking a bullet to the head. So we'll again chat with Coldwater. I mean, I don't know why you'd ever do chat with Coldwater when you can do Southern fears. I guess you could theoretically do both. Because, well, I mean, this seems bad. This seems like a not a great follow-up to the whole Angie storyline, but Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated. Horrible news has come out of Memphis, Tennessee. Just after 6 in the evening, civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot while talking to his colleagues on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. The bullet, fired from a boarding house across the street, entered through his cheek, smashing the jaw and penetrating into his spinal cord. Dr. King was rushed to St. Joseph's Hospital, where he was pronounced dead just an hour later. In a short address to the press at St. Joseph's, Jesse Jackson, the well-known organizer and ally of Dr. King, mourned the fallen activist, claiming that Dr. King died in his arms. Jackson stated that this tragedy must not be a mere partisan issue, but one that unites us all, sons and daughters of God, to a higher calling. Okay, so King rise to 968. Political power goes down by 0.3. Population goes down by 5%. Stability goes down for 15% for 30 days. And extremism will grow in America. I love how even with that negative 15%, we are actually still at 100. People are still pretty happy with America, even though there's growing political violence. Anything we can do here? Again, we still need to take this 150 days. We're getting a slight debuff. A 0.3 honestly is not that bad because we do gain such a large amount of political power. And also, it should be noted that I have now I'm starting recording my videos onto my SSD as opposed to my HDD. So I don't know if that's going to make the games run any better. But I'm no longer using like a 7-year-old hard drive to record my videos on. Maybe it'll improve performance, maybe it won't. Let me know if it seems better on your end. Images from the funeral. A simple farm wagon, brown and faded green, pulled by a pair of mules through the streets of Atlanta. Dignitaries, celebrities, men and women of all faiths gathered in the church of Ralph Abernathy's remarks on one of the darkest hours of mankind. 100,000 people crowding 3.5 miles of roadway, watching the procession go by. Cornetta Scott King, Jesse Jackson, Andrew Young, John Lewis, Walter Reuther, Mahalia Jackson singing "Take My Hand, Precious Lord." More tears and grief than any human mind could possibly comprehend. At the end, everyone sang "We shall overcome," and everyone prays that we will. Someday. I mean, it's not great, right? That, hey, we got a good RDC campaign. It's not great that King has been assassinated. Where's we campaign? What's a swing state in 1968? Thing is, like, what's a swing state in our alternate universe that we have here? Like, maybe Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. Sure, we'll campaign. Oh, they absolutely 15 to 36% margins in New York State is crazy. People in New York love Kennedy. Okay. Lackluster campaign in the Great Plains is fine. And someone was saying in one of the comments, one of the videos, about why we're campaigning for the RDC as opposed to the MPP in our playthrough. And it's really just to shake things up a little bit. I don't want to make things too easy for us. Ooh, Cameroon's collapsed. By just always doing what benefits the NPP. By going for the other route and just making things more difficult can, I think, enhance the story that we're kind of creating here. So Cameroon's collapsed. That is fantastic news for us. It does mean that the bastion of African socialism has completely collapsed. Let's send you to, I don't even know where this army is. We'll just send you there. I'm sure you'll figure it out, in due time. Okay, more wars in, Cameroon and in Nigeria. I don't know if there's anything we can do, regarding that. Also, I do see there are some more colors on the little, wheel here that they were not there at the beginning of this episode. How many days we have on this? 170? Okay, recruit more local militias. Let's, again, improve food security. Get all this stuff done. On diplomacy. Cities in Michigan never startled Philip Hart, but New York City frightened him. It was too fast for him, being whisked from the airport with each successive location at a disorienting pace. First, it was a luncheon with local unions in the speech. There followed a meeting and speech with urban activist Jane Jacobs. Then a meeting with the press club before the final appearance outside of New York Midtown Hilton. After delivering some impromptu-based public remarks, Senator Hart and his wife retreated into the welcoming safety of the hotel's ballroom and the party waiting inside. At long last, thought the beleaguered candidates, downtime. If only. An hour of handshaking and personal politicking followed the rivaled the day's engagements for their tedium, pushing the candidate's public face to its limits. Then 2 taps of Hart's soldiers. "Senator Hart," inquired someone from behind, "may I steal you?" When he turned around, repeats the Greek cycle, he was shocked to see Nelson Rockefeller extending his hand. Furthermore, the governor of New York was not alone. By his side was a pudgy man with horn-rimmed glasses, short, wavy hair, and a face devoid of expression. "Philip Hart, this is Dr. Henry Kissinger." Rockefeller gestured for the two to shake hands, which they did, before continuing. Dr. Kissinger's work through the Rockefeller Foundation has provided insight on foreign policy to every president since Eisenhower, and the governor placing his arm around Kissinger, winding up to his pitches crescendo. Not only does it seem natural that your administration continue the tradition, but also perhaps the doctor could graduate into working with you directly. Staffing the State Department was way away, explained Hart, who started on excuses before the then silenced Kissinger spoke up. "Strong foreign policy requires authority. I would only work for the president directly," Rockefeller added. "An advisor or White House staff state does not suit Henry." Hart could see merit in adding to the heads of foreign policy discussion, but it still remained too early for commitments. Furthermore, he was tired and wanted to sleep. "I'll think about it," offered the candidates, and for now, that was that. On to the next circle. We're not getting political power nearly as fast as I would appreciate. Please, I need some political power so that I can not be so hated by the right. OFN gives Central Africa independence, and with that should be the end of the African mandates, right? Hey, yes it is. Yeah, let's send more humanitarian aid. We gotta keep up on this. We gotta keep up on the global conflicts tab. Because I want West Africa to be secure. I want it to be friendly to American interest. And I know that can be difficult. Because we got to keep on checking that the list. Now, I know it does, I think, show up underneath here as well. Actually, you know what? It does show up under there. So you know what we can actually do? Is we just turn all of these off. No, I want to open this, please. Then it should show up when we have a new decision. If you can just please turn this off. And then, yeah, it'll only show up when we actually have some new stuff to look at, which is, I'm happy to see. Okay, we're no longer investing into the administration cost. Campaign for civil rights will be seen as more liberal. Okay, we gotta save our political power, at least a little bit. But now the Yawkies and the Marxists have 3% support in government, and I don't know if they're going to get any seats. They're not, at least not right now. Maybe in 1972, but not at this exact moment in time. Okay, we cannot take you. I do not want to take you quite yet. Let's go with the underlying problem. Let's talk to the Dixiecrats. See if maybe, I don't know if we can work something out, or if we can completely undermine them. Whatever needs to happen, we'll try that approach. 2001: Space Odyssey. Hey, I need to watch 2001: Space Odyssey. It's one of those movies that's in my list of things to watch, but I have not. Fortunately, haven't done it. I need to do it at some point. Okay, empty suits. Hot weather. The Hershey executive landed in Bamako this morning and went on their way to the Assassination plantations growing in the peripheries of Mali. When they arrived, they saw those budding saplings, rows upon rows of them budding with the promise of prosperity held on the tips of those leaves. Cocoa, a commodity that Hershey had to contend with the Mexican and Brazilian monopolies. For so long, was now available to them exclusively. The men threw high fives around above their jeeps and saluted the shabby forms in between the row of plants. A local Malian general was to host their lunch. In the sweltering sub-Saharan sun, they dined on spiced rice and chicken, meat cooked in peanut butter stews, and smoked fish. Thank you for the opportunity, the uniformed officer said, while they grow stronger with each passing day. They looked at the plantation from their lunch tables. It is a mutually beneficial agreement, General, one of the executives said. More to come. A pause. Speaking of, how are you going to find the labor for these complexes? Leave it to me, the general curtsied. I know exactly where to find them. Hands were shaken, money was passed, trust in the government will go up, Free France will increases their GDP of 5%, and the economic reconstruction of West Africa will moderately progress. Do not ask Hershey where they're getting their labor from. You do not want to know. Let's subsidize Firestone expansion. Get this going as well. We got 37 and 60. Great numbers here. And add in the Rust Belt. There have been a single constant in our nation's history. That hardworking men and women will always be there to forge new trails, dig out our resources, establish new farms, turn iron into steel, and build our greatest landmarks and the strongest economy in the world. Isn't it time that they should be rewarded? The new Social Security system will help all workers across the nation, ensuring that in the event of injury or ill health, if troubled times lie ahead, or if you've reached 65 and are ready to retire, that you are still helped and cared for with a pension and aid, so that you can live life of dependency or decency and honor, and to thank you for the hard work that helped build this nation. Robert Kennedy will gain support from the unions and his radical base. Minimum wage workdays, regulation of trade unions will increase. Workers' rights will improve, and voters, or union voters, become more progressive, more liberal on domestic issues, and more liberal on economic issues. We do love to see it. We're now seen as a fervent union supporter, boosting progressive popularity in pro-union states, while losing support in more conservative areas. And the polls, once again, updated. So the prediction right now is the nationalists are actually collapsing. They're going to go down to 19 seats. The Republicans are getting a little bit. Democrats are getting a little bit as well. Progressives are going up. And we're going to have even more progressives, which is very, very, very nice. For the presidential election, we are still looking at Kennedy just winning. It's not as swingy. I mean, Hart has less votes now. He's at 28 versus 269. But it's not a... I mean, it's going to be a landslide. There's no reality in this I would see right now where the NPP could possibly lose. Like, what would the RDC have to do to win the election? I honestly don't even know. It seems basically impossible. An automotive plant in Detroit, Michigan, 2:26 p.m. After 12 years welding car doors, a man develops the ability to shut himself off from the heat and clangor of the factory floor, as his body mechanically carried out his duties. Frank Gordon's mind retreated along the obscure pathways of his consciousness to survive the working day. In his mind's eye, Frank saw his daughters and his wife, trying to remind himself why he endured the ordeals of the factory. It was a hard life, and the bosses didn't make it any easier. After a few years of toil, Frank met a new guy at the plant who began to speak quietly to the others about labor rights, and of that most forbidden topic, unions. Eventually, he invited Frank and some of the others to a meeting. That is how Frank Gordon became a communist. Of course, he had a nagging sensation that they were just using him, but all Susan Washington did was smile and lie. He grew to hate them with a passion that burned within him like hot coals. That everlasting fury becoming the only thing keeping him going. Day after day, one minuscule paycheck after another. At first, Frank thought Kennedy was just another smiling white snake like the rest of them. But when his wife became a fervent supporter of his, Frank had been forced to reevaluate him. His policies had begun to affect his own quality of life, raising his living standards to a level he never thought possible. All those years of bosses growing fat off their toil, while they could barely scrape enough together to pay the bills. And what had the communists accomplished other than talking endlessly? Finishing one door, moving to the next, Frank decided to begin stepping back from the communist. Kennedy might just be another Washington suit, but at least he was doing something tangible for the working man. To be radical is to grasp things by the roots. So it looks like Kennedy right now is taking support away from the Communist Party, adding it to his own support base. We're a fervent supporter. And we're currently seen as progressive, slightly strengthening the support for the NPP. All this seems pretty good. Kazakh Socialist Republic has declared war on the Kazakh Defense Force. Official statements from Kazakhstan government has confirmed the death of Pavel Fitin, a representative of the NKVD. Chairman Fitin's regime was defined by its failure to deal with the ethnic conflict brewing in the country, leaving behind a rising Kazakh resistance. The government now appears to be under the control of the Soviet Group, a pro-Russian faction that pledged allegiance to the Stalinist idea of Tumen and the belief that Kazakhstan is an extension of the USSR. Okay, so they are at war. Kazakh Defense Force between you, Orda without the Lash, Comintern Associates. So are you both? You're partisan movement, but it looks like you are still pro-Soviet. I think, unless because you're Soviet group. I mean, they're still a Comintern Associate, so they might still align themselves with the Far East Republic, which I think is still beneficial to us. But I will say that at least right now, this is going to be a good time for us to end this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day, and goodbye.